same question over the past months, weeks, leading up to it. And that question is, what exactly does this mean? I found myself asking it in like a lot for preparation of tonight, but also just like in general. What exactly does like a worship night mean? Like what exactly does like worship mean? So I went to Google, obviously. So Google defines worship as the feeling or expression of reverence or adoration for a deity. I, myself, define worship as that time before the actual preaching, where if you're running a few minutes late, you can like sneak into the back and nobody's going to notice because we're all singing. That's not what it is. It's not what it's supposed to be, but I feel like a lot of times, especially in modern church, is what we kind of use it for. It's a time to like kind of sing songs that we hear on the radio, look for like people that we know in the crowd and think about what we're going to have after Sunday sermon. But that's not at all what it's supposed to be. Obviously, that's a very loose definition. Because in the definition, it says something about adoration for a deity. But what we are feeling adoration for, what we are expressing adoration for, is not just a deity. A deity is anything that you really worship. Muslims worship Allah. Jews worship their Jewish God. And different pagan religions worship their different idols. Those are their deities. Our deity is so much bigger and greater than that, because our deity is the living God. It's the only religion on the planet right now that their God is alive, because our God is alive. All of their other gods, like Muhammad, I don't know any of the other ones, Buddha, they're all dead. They're all dead in the grave. Ours is not. I really liked the fact that we picked worship night after Easter. Easter is not just like a special day, because obviously it's when our Savior gets resurrected from the dead, but it's also a day where I feel like more people than ever come to church. We know like that crowd that comes to church Easter and Christmas, but like we are part of that crowd too. I feel like a lot of us, the church-going Christians, we pull up to Sunday sermons, but we're not really there. We're there to be like, yeah, I went to church on Sunday. If you were to ask somebody like the last great sermon that they listened to, what it was about, I really don't think that you can get a lot of answers. Because in reality, in the modern church, in the modern day, in our generation, people go to church, they hear the sermons, but they're not really listening to the sermons or what the sermon is about. Just like with worship, how I said that sometimes I use it as an excuse when I'm running late. You can kind of slip into the back. It's so easy for us to hear these words and to go to these things and just be like, yeah, this is just a part of life. This is just what we do on a Sunday. On a Sunday, you wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning and you go to church, and afterwards you go to Mexican. That's what we do every Sunday. Sunday Baptist. But that's not what it's supposed to be. It is fun to sing about Jesus. It's fun to listen to songs about God. It's fun to do all of the religion stuff. But if you're anything like me, then you might be wondering, what is the point? Deuteronomy 7:9. Obviously, if you don't have a Bible, I do. I'll read it for you. Deuteronomy 7:9 says, "Know therefore that the Lord your God is God, the faithful God who keeps covenant and steadfast love with those who love him and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations." Deuteronomy 7:9 defines who God is. God, as we all know from living in the South, living in the Bible Belt, is this guy in the sky that we are told in Sunday school sent his son Jesus to die on a cross so that every Easter we get together and we hunt Easter eggs and we get to say, oh, I know I'm going to heaven. That's what he is to people in the Bible Belt. But what does that really mean? I feel like a lot of us like to water down Jesus on the cross. We like to think of, movies or books that we've read and watched, Passion of the Christ being one that a lot of us watch, where you have this depiction of a guy with long hair hanging on a cross sweating. That is true, that did happen, but there's so much more and there's so much more gravity to it than what I feel we give it credit for. Jesus was real. He lived on earth. He had friends. He had family. He walked the earth going through hardships that you and I go through every single day, times 10, I imagine, because he was a perfect man and we are not perfect. He's not just a person that we can think of and be like, oh my gosh, Jesus died for us. Yay, no hell for me. That's not what that means. Jesus died a death that he did not have to die because he had no sin. So now we think, what is sin? Sin is something that we're all born with. Sin is simply things that we do turning away from God. It's anything that we do in our daily lives that is not glorifying to our Creator. That could be lying. We all lie. That could be cheating on a test because lying. I said that because I cheated on a test last week and I felt really bad about it. That could be not honoring our father and mother. That could be being mean to somebody that we see. That could be spreading gossip, whispering about people as soon as they leave a room. Literally anything that you can think of that would not be glorifying to a perfect God is what sin is. And we are all sinners. Every single person in this room, Genesis kind of gives us a layout for why we are sinners, why that happened at the Garden of Eden. I don't have that verse, but if you want to read it, I can give it to you. Maybe you've come in here tonight and you're dealing with the secret battles. Maybe you're coming here tonight dealing with loss. Maybe you're coming in here tonight and you're struggling through a mental health battle. Maybe you're coming in here and you're like, I don't know who these people are. I don't know why I'm here. Y'all are kind of crazy. That's okay. Props to you. Free food. But Jesus does know what you're going through. Jesus does see what you're going through because he went through the same thing. He went through loss. He went through temptation. He went through some of the worst physical beatings that has ever been recorded in history. He came down and died a very awful, gruesome death for you, and he would do it again in a heartbeat if it meant for the hope that one day you would be up in heaven with him. I want to read some verses, just because, why not? So we're going to go to Romans 5:8. Maybe. Just kidding, guys. No, I'm not just kidding. Okay. Romans 5:8 says, God shows his love for us, that in while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. We are sinners. We're never not going to be sinners. That's just kind of the way that the world is, the way that we are, the way that humankind is. But just because we're sinners doesn't mean that we can't have love from Jesus, because Jesus is the ultimate form of love. There is nowhere else on earth, no person on earth that can give you the kind of love that Jesus can. Not a romantic partner, not your parents, not your friends, not the professor that you're really close with, not the person on TikTok that you watch every single day. Nobody. Because nobody knows the things that you go through on a daily basis the way that Jesus does. And Romans 5:8 kind of just shows how deep God's love for us is. He sent his only son to die a criminal's death, because the cross in the ancient times was used for criminals, petty thieves, tax collectors, stuff like that. Those were the kinds of people that got hung on a cross. And you would hang there, nails, whatever, for hours until you slowly just died. You hung there for everybody to come and watch you die, to yell at you, to jeer at you, to point, mock, laugh at you. And Christ did that for us. He came to earth knowing that he was going to do that for us. And he didn't run from it. He didn't hide from it. He didn't look at God and be like, yeah, but so-and-so was going to be really a bad kid 2,000 years down the road. I don't really want to die for them. No. Speaking of that, I actually have a verse in Jeremiah, Jeremiah 1:5, speaking about Jesus kind of being somebody 2,000 years from now. You could be sitting here and be like, Jesus doesn't know me. Jesus died 2,000 years ago. What do you mean he was somebody in the future? In Jeremiah 1:5 it says, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I consecrated you. I appointed you a prophet to the nations. God put us together, piece by piece, knowing what our thoughts were going to be, knowing what schools we were going to go to, knowing the people we were going to have in our lives, knowing the actions we were going to take every single day. He put us together, piece by piece, before we were ever even in our mother's womb. And he did that knowing that one day somebody's going to come and die on a cross so that you could be with him again in heaven. So this is a long tangent, I feel like maybe it doesn't make a lot of sense, but I hope it kind of does. So now you're probably wondering, why are you up here doing this? Your job is worship leader. And yes, my job is to sing these songs with you, to worship alongside you, have fun on a Monday night, eat free food with my friends. That is what I'm here to do. But according to Matthew 28, verse 18, I'm also called to tell you why we do these things. I'm called to reach the nations, and for Wallace State Community College, you guys are my nation. You guys are the ends of the earth for me right now. I'm here to tell you that there is a God who loves you beyond anything else you could ever imagine. That there is a God who is sitting and waiting and watching and pining for you to just turn and just have a conversation with him. You could have a personal relationship with him today, tonight, right now, this moment. Like, what are y'all waiting for? Obviously, if you already have a relationship with him, you can attest he is so good. He is. Bad things happen all the time, and that is not the result of a faulty God, that's the result of a faulty world. But even in those bad things, if you turn to God, just talk to him, let out everything in your heart, you'll learn that the bad things will turn into really, really, really great ones. And I have a great testimony, if you ever want to hear it. Bad things happen to me all the time, and I'm still here as a living testament to a loving God. My foot got run over by our president. That was a bad thing. I can't go on my 6-week internship now. But you know what? There are still really good things
Christy's laugh makes it so much better. I love it so much.
Abigail's looking at me like, what?
There are still really good things that come out of it. I relish in the goodness of God every single day, as I'm sure Christy does, as I'm sure Lucy does, as I'm sure Josiah does, as I'm sure Carson and Amelia and, worry about him. As I'm sure they all do every day, and you can talk to any Christian and say that you marvel and you just sit in the presence of God and you just feel goodness and peace and joy. And not just joy that like we say on earth, like, oh, I'm happy right now. Like real, unfiltered, raw joy every single day, despite all of the things that I mentioned. This world is hard. You lose your job. You go through depression. You go through anxiety. Those are real things. There's also a real God that comes out of that and tells you it's okay. You can feel those things, and I'm sitting right here waiting for you whenever you stop feeling those things. So I'm going to pray this out. If you want to kind of know more about salvation, more about Jesus, more about the ministry, what we do, there's QR codes over there, made by me, and like the little blue phone-looking thing. Scan those. We have a Google form for you to fill out.